Conversation.
Mr. Beast, beasts, animals, apes. Why do I keep thinking about apes? Uh-oh, here we go again.
Hello, and welcome to the Kongversation. I'm Hyle Russell.
And I'm Jeff Onan.
Jeff, did you know that in the year 1979, the legendary prog rock band Pink Floyd asked the question, if you don't eat your meat, how can you have any pudding? And I think about that question a lot when we do these Sea of Thieves episodes, because, even as a vegan, I feel it's a pertinent question to ask. Very prudent. Because I can already hear the groans of our audience upon seeing the title for this week's episode of The Kongversation. Another Sea of Thieves episode. Haven't we already had 3 this season? Why are we doing another Sea of Thieves episode? And I get it. A large part of DK Vine's The Kongversation Donkey Kong universe discussion, a large part of our audience, they don't care. They don't care about Sea of Thieves. They want the Donkey Kong discussion. They want us to talk about Banjo-Kazooie. I get it. But here's the thing. We have a lot of terrific Donkey Kong-based episodes coming over the next 2.5 months. We've got, of course, Donkey Kong is going to be in Super Mario Party Jamboree, and we're going to have to talk about it. We've got episodes, so many episodes that tie into the 30th anniversary of Donkey Kong Country this November, and the 20th anniversary of Donkey Kong Country 2 for the Game Boy Advance. But
two equal anniversaries.
Yes. But before we get to all of that, Sea of Thieves Season 13 is wrapping up this week, and as Season 14 will be the final seasonal rollover in what's left of 2023, that means this is it. This is the last Sea of Thieves episode we had to do this season of The Kongversation. So, if you don't listen to your Sea of Thieves episodes, how can you have any of Donkey Kong's pudding? You've got to earn it. You've got to earn that tasty treat. I think that's only fair, Jeff.
I agree. I actually, I have 2 things to say about that too. Because first, I'll say, in reference to the Pink Floyd song, I'm pretty sure that the first lyrics spoken in the song are "Daddy's flown across the ocean," and if that's not the most apt little description of Sea of Thieves season 13, I don't know what is. We're gonna work that in. And the second thing I'll say with regards to eating meat to have the pudding, this is probably the last Sea of Thieves episode of the season of The Kongversation, so it very well might be the last little episode of Jeff being on The Kongversation this season. You never know. We don't know what's coming up. You never know when I get called off the bench. So for those of you people who have been eating the meat, the Jeff meat, you now get to enjoy maybe 2-ish months of pudding. No more Jeffs. So just hang in there, listeners. You can do it. Come on, you can do it. One more. You got just one more Jeff. It's fine.
I think you'll be on probably at least one more time this season. I can't imagine spending November and December without the warm embrace of Jeff Onan.
Yeah, I should probably not promise the audience that they don't have to deal with me if it's not set in stone. They might riot. But this is the Kongversation podcast. In case this is your first time listening, it's a podcast about Donkey Kong. That's all you need. I think we've set the stage.
And then you're like, why are they talking about Sea of Thieves? And I'm just like, well, you're not paying attention. Clearly, you're not connecting the dots that we've connected.
Do the homework.
Yeah.
Just watch the other 1,300 episodes.
Right, yeah, we explain it. We've explained it so many times. Sea of Thieves is a game made by Rare, a studio in the English Midlands who made Donkey Kong games from the mid-90s, honestly through the late aughts, but they sort of brought back Donkey Kong in this modern context that we all know and love him. today, and everything from his appearance in the Super Mario Brothers movie to the new theme park coming to Super Nintendo World in Japan and Orlando, it's all rooted in that vision of Donkey Kong, first seen 30 years ago in 1994. And from there, they tied in and spun off numerous franchises under their own auspices from Donkey Kong Country. And Sea of Thieves is looped into that shared Rare universe network of games. So deal with it. I don't care. You know what? It's just like, I'm so apologetic. Oh, I'm sorry. We have to talk about Sea of Thieves again here on the Kongversation. Well, you know what? You might learn something. You might have some fun.
Yeah. Hyle told me before we started recording that he didn't think this was going to be a long one. And then I accidentally tricked him into explaining the podcast. So
yeah,
we got to get moving. We have a little bit of homework to do. We have some business to do at the top of the show. Hyle, why don't you hit us with the business?
All right, I'll bring you the business right here. So the business this week is that DK Vine, we're on Blue Sky. It's a fast-growing social media network. It's kind of like Twitter. It's kind of like what Twitter used to be, except without the Nazis. So
yeah,
you know,
it's like if Twitter made the Ice Age films. All right.
I got it.
All right.
I got it. It's
okay.
Like, any chance Jeff has to bring up Ice Age?
The Ice Age film franchise is, good.
It's Jeff's other passion, but we've got a growing presence on Blue Sky. Platonic is back on Blue Sky. It's been great to see. Rare's been blue skying. They try to get skeeting off the ground as like the verb, what you do when you post on Blue Sky, but I don't like that. I think that's a little bit too try hard, Jeff. So I'm just gonna say, posting, I guess. But
yeah, where I grew up, skeet meant jizz, so let's not.
I mean, if that's what it's about, then yeah, definitely sign up. You can find us at dkvine.com/blue sky. We're also on TeePublic. Need I remind you? We've got some shirts. I try to add at least one new design every month. Jeff, people seem to like your shirts. You're so hard on yourself about your appearances on the podcast, but then whose shirts are selling on our merchandise store at dkevin.com/merchandise? It's the ones conceived by you.
I often come up with an idea like, what if the Jurassic Park logo, but riffed on? And, I kind of win awards for that kind of thinking, but I don't like to brag. I just don't like to bring it up.
Yeah, well, if you want to emblazon yourself with the mind of Jeff, then be sure to check us out on TeePublic. And of course, we're also on Patreon. We live stream these episodes for our $5 and up patrons. And we got March Rose in there right now. Hello, March Rose says, bring Jeff back. So Jeff...
Well, it's not going to happen until you turn it into a hashtag on the Blue Sky website. So you can't just say bring something back. You have to say hashtag bring it back. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we're going to have you on for one more episode because I feel like you're
right.
I mean, I realize you're not everybody's cup of tea. Not everyone is on the same wavelength as you. But
at least one commenter has said, I don't like Jeff.
Yeah,
and that's fine.
You really internalize
I don't like
that.
Jeff.
Yeah,
I don't like Jeff either.
And I understand.
I
understand how hard it is. I try not to read YouTube comments most of the time because you read one bad one, it can derail your train of thought. So I get it. I get it, Jeff. But you really did just absorb that, and you wear it like a scarlet letter.
Yeah, I don't know. I assume a lot of people don't like me, but I'm not often told. I'm not often told to my face. It's fine. It's okay. I don't have to be liked. I do have to be moving on to the next bullet point on our podcast.
Okay, Jeff. I was just gonna say, like, someone once told me in the comments that I was their least favorite part of DK Vine, and I'm like, well, that's a damn shame because I'm pretty much on nearly everything.
You're the main. You're kind of the main course of it.
Yeah, so I was like, oh,
that's hard to...
I'll try to rectify that. I'll just bench myself and let Cameron and Dustin run everything for a year.
Yeah. All right. Well, Hyle, I have to chime in because before we get into the meat, you can't have pudding without meat, etc. Before we get into the meat, you can't have your meat if you haven't had your pre-meat. That's, I don't know. Every episode this season, Hyle, you are aware, I have pitched that the Kongversation podcast ought to have a tagline or a catchphrase or a slogan or a motto, because it doesn't have one, and that's bad marketing. So every episode I'm on in season 12 of this podcast, I come up with one. And so we're going to come up with one right now, we being me. All right. DK Vines, The Kongversation, now in podcast form.
Yeah, okay.
It might work, I don't know.
Jeff doesn't think of these ahead of time. It's not like he stands in the shower trying to come up with these slogans.
They are fully improv. Believe me, if I thought about them, they would be maybe C minuses instead of the D pluses that I'm giving you. But we got what we got.
Yeah. No,
and actually, Hyle, before we jump really into the meat, I have to tell you, just to set the stage for the audience and for you, my good friend. Oh, speaking of, how are you?
A little anxious. It's a very anxiety-riddled time to be present and following, the news and what have you. So I'm trying to, focus on my mental health. I'm trying to put myself in a positive frame of mind. We are recording this on a Friday evening, so I'm going to try to enjoy the weekend, some fall frolics, if you will. But yeah, you know what? I'm just trying the whole self-care route to try to get me through the next several weeks.
Yeah, no, I get you. It's an anxious time. The Tigers are going back to Cleveland for Game 5. So I get you. But I'm frazzled and just disoriented because I ran home from work to be on this and quickly throw some notes together. You knew this. I was really tight on the schedule and crammed a couple slices of pizza into my mouth before we jumped on the recording. A couple slices of pizza and a shot of Patron, which is my podcast medicine. But right before I left work, I saw the most unhinged shit I've ever seen. And I wanted to tell you, there's a lady at my work who's a baby boomer of that generation. I'm not using that as an insult, but you can infer what you want. And at the end of the day, I saw her with an open can of Mountain Dew, and in fact, next to it was a second open can of Mountain Dew, both with liquid still in. They were not empty cans. And she was cramming a Kleenex tissue into the cans, and she saw me look at her, and she said, I really need to start bringing a plastic bag or something so that these things don't spill in my backpack. And I said, okay. But so let's unpack what I saw backwards. So she drank half a can of Mountain Dew twice. That's the first insane thing someone has done in this story. The second thing is, I've got these open cans. I can't just throw them in my backpack. I better plug them up. I'm going to use Kleenex tissue. So that happened. And then she sees me seeing, and she's like, yeah, this is crazy. I know. I should have brought a plastic bag. So I think what I said to her was something along the lines of like, yeah. And then I walked away. So that was how I ended my day, and then sprinted home, chugged some pizza, and started slamming out some Kongversation notes. So I'm really weird right now. I'm feeling weird, and I think we're gonna have a good podcast because of it.
That would disorient anyone, yeah. Because why would you need to open two cans at the same time? Why wouldn't you just drink the one?
Why don't you just drink the one? Why don't you drink Mountain Dew out of a bottle so you can reseal it with a with a twist-on cap.
Yeah.
Why are you choosing Kleenex tissue to plug it with of all the options? And if you were gonna bring a plastic bag, and I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt and assume she means like a Ziploc baggie and not like a grocery store bag or something crazy. I'm gonna assume she means like a sealable bag. In which case, you're gonna throw an open can of soda pop into a Ziploc, and then what?
Yeah, okay. that Ziploc bag is probably not going to keep that Mountain Dew at bay. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's going to start seeping out. It's just going to find a way. It's going to find a little crevice. It's going to find a little hole, a little opening. It's going to snake through, and then there's going to be a little sticky catastrophe.
You're going to spill the pop.
Yeah.
We agree you're going to spill. Oh, by the way, our audience is not from all... they're from all over this country and world. When I say pop, I mean Mountain Dew.
Yeah. You don't mean Kellogg's Corn Pops.
It could mean anything. Some people call it sody. But, you're going to spill the pop.
Yeah.
And I think that... I just think that, that lady set me up for a little brain worm that's going to be in my head for a while. So thanks for that.
It is Worm Week because we're talking about Sea of Thieves season 13. And look, once more, and I'm sorry, Jeff, I know you're raring to go, but I would like to clarify because I know that this episode is titled Sea of Thieves season 13 with the 13 spelled out instead of being written in Arabic numerals as it actually is in the game and Rare's promotional materials. As I explained on the Sea of Thieves Season 12 episode, that's because up through Season 10, Rare actually spelled out the season numbers, and they only switched the Arabic numerals with Sea of Thieves Season 11, because I think they were like, this is starting to look gross, right? So we're just going to shorten it. But I was so used to spelling them out, like my muscle memory was taking over because my overworked brain couldn't keep up. Didn't catch that when we did our Sea of Thieves Season 11 episode, I typed it out as a word. I recognized this error when prepping the Sea of Thieves Season 12 episode. And Jeff, I told you then, I was mortified. It basically destroyed me as much as that YouTube comment destroyed you. I doubted myself for days after that because I pride myself on being observant, on paying attention to the small details and celebrating the small details. But if the small details are starting to slip through my cracks, like that Mountain Dew out of your coworker's little sandwich baggie, what does that say about me? What does it say about the integrity of DK Vine? Not even getting into the fact that we completely whiffed on that Lorena fact on the last episode of the conversation where we said she didn't have dialogue, and it turned out she did have dialogue. We just forgot. So basically, I feel like my back is up against the wall when it comes to Sea of Thieves this year. But as I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make it right. We're going to continue to spell out the season numbers for consistency's sake until the end of this Kongversation season. In season 13 of the Kongversation, we'll then use Arabic numerals when discussing season 14 of Sea of Thieves. But for season 13 of Sea of Thieves, we're still spelling it out as season 13 here in season 12 of the Kongversation. Catch my drift?
Yeah. What?
Yeah, so Sea of Thieves season 13. Let's talk.
Yeah. Jeff. Let's do it.
Jeff, you've been busy. You've been out and about living your life. Like an independent career woman in a cigarette ad of the 1980s. And
Okay.
I admire that.
All right.
I admire that about you, but we haven't played together enough this season. Usually we have a lot of shared experiences. Like, hey, remember when we kidnapped that child during Christmas? And
I do.
We have a hearty laugh about it, but I've played with you so infrequently the past season of Sea of Thieves. Like here or there, we've done some things, but it hasn't really been a shared lived experience. So we're gonna have to compare notes on this one. We're gonna have to talk about.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're gonna have to talk about
what you saw, what I saw,
yeah.
and can join them.
We'll see where they overlap, because there was the times that you were playing without me and the times you were playing with me. Then there were the times I was playing with you, and there were not the times that I was playing without you. Because the honest truth is I chose to not play video games for most of the summer. And we're not in the summer anymore. It's now October. But no, I haven't been playing. My parents have a lake house, and I like to just sometimes sit in the sun and do nothing. I've learned in my older age that I don't need to be looking at something all the time. Sometimes I can just close my eyes and like drink 9 beers and enjoy nature.
Here's the thing, Jeff, though. I hope you understand, and I'm not trying to shame you or your life experiences, but you can enjoy nature without the beer. I mean, it's fine to, I drink. I'm not trying to say like, hey man, maybe don't have the 9 beers. I partake, but nature is quite resplendent in its beauty, all unto itself.
No, that's true. I've recently cut back, and I've started drinking half of beers. I'm still just trying to figure out a way to plug up those cans and save them for later. So let us know in the comments what you think about how to plug up a cans. But no, I really haven't played a lot of Sea of Thieves this season. Personally, my interest in the game has been at a low for a while this season, whether that's because of the game in some ways, and then just because of my own, where I'm directing my attention lately. So it's a mix of personal reasons and then the game reasons, and we can get into some of the game stuff. And, I just haven't been playing any games. I would say video games. This is a video game podcast. This is a podcast about video games. And, that's pretty far removed from. Well, anyway, point is, it's like video games are like my 5th top hobby. Okay, and I think that for most people who listen to a podcast about video games, maybe video games are your top number 1 hobby, and that's cool. But I have other stuff going on, and I've been busy. I also will probably take this opportunity to say that the blogging about the video games is slowing down. I do have a blog. We didn't talk about it at the top of the show. It's a blog about Sea of Thieves that's called Golden Sands Blog Post, and that has been going for 6 years. And I'm not gonna say that I'm not doing it anymore, but I am gonna say that I'm not committing to it being comprehensive anymore. So this is a little news bite. Hyle, you're not used to getting live news on the show.
No.
So please try to wipe your mascara right now and hold it together. But it's fine. The show's gonna go on. But no, I haven't been playing as much, and I won't be blogging as much. It's just it's a chapter.
Just a chapter. I think that says it all. Yeah. No, it's understandable because, here's the thing. I am the Mr. Donkey Kong journalist, Mr. DK Vine. Some people's least favorite part of DK Vine, but Mr. DK Vine nonetheless. And, people just assume about me that all I do, all I think about, all I care about is the Donkey Kong universe. They think like that's, I log off, I shut off my devices, and I'm just doing some Donkey Kong shit, right? And no, the truth is, when I'm done working for DK Vine for the day, it's the last thing I want to think about. I enjoy it. I enjoy it quite a bit, and I enjoy my work, but I also want to lead a well-rounded life. So I completely understand when you're just like, you know what, I've had my fill of this for a while, because you don't want to burn yourself out. You definitely need to try the variety, the buffet that is life.
That's right. And you know what? We got into the summertime is a great time to do stuff outside of your house and away from your screen. And then that constituted most of season 13. Then you get into the fall. Fall time is my favorite time. It also coincides with American gridiron football season, which is something I spend a lot of my time with. It coincides with I'm in the mood for Halloween because my number one favorite thing in the world is scary movies and horror genre stuff. And so, this is a bad time for Sea of Thieves to try and court me. It's like, there's a lot of suitors in the ball.
They used to do it really well.
We did play a little.
Yeah, I just want to say they used to do this really well.
Let's parlay this into an actual relevant thing. Go ahead with your point.
Yeah. Sea of Thieves used to really go all out for the month of October or Halloween with their festival.
I thought you were going to say gridiron football, but okay. Go ahead.
Their Festival of the Damned annual events, and they would often have little mini events that tie into it, the Something of the Damned, every October. And in the past couple years, they just haven't done anything. They'll put the pumpkins in the taverns with the theremin music, but that's it. And it's very low effort. And I miss when Sea of Thieves felt really spooky in October. I feel like whoever's in charge of those decisions these days, they don't care. And I liked the tradition. I liked the routine. I liked being excited about Halloween in Sea of Thieves because I also enjoy Halloween quite a bit. And the thing I love about Sea of Thieves vis-a-vis Halloween is it would carry over into like the first 2 weeks or so of November. And so it would be like a prolonged Halloween when everybody else is forcing Christmas down your throat. I could escape into Sea of Thieves and be like, nah, there's still some Dracula shit in here. That's great.
Yeah, no, one of my other big hobbies, as you know, is I'm an avid board gamer. People hear that and they think, oh, you like board games, like Twister? That's not the example they go to. But no, I personally own 300 board games. So imagine that. Now your eyes have gone so wide. But I play a lot of board games, and at my last monthly board game night in town at this event that I go to, it was the October. We play the first Friday of every month, and it was the first Friday of October. And I went, and it wasn't Halloween themed. In the previous year they did a Halloween costume contest at the board game night. And then I showed up. I did not show up in costume. Don't worry. Because it wasn't advertised. I could see ahead of time it wasn't Halloween themed. So I showed up. It's not Halloween themed, and I went to the Mr. Man, and I said, why isn't it Halloween themed? It should have been. And he was, oh yeah, we forgot. Maybe it should be, but it's so early in October. And we looked at a calendar, and a calendar said that the first Friday of November is November 1st, and I said that is still Halloween. He said, I guess you're right. Let's make that the costume contest. I was like, all right, cool. So the first Friday of November, which I'm calling the last Friday of October, will be our Halloween after party. But that's what Sea of Thieves always was. It was it was a Halloween after party that it went through and beyond. And you got to just keep savoring the taste because nobody takes their Halloween decorations down at 12:01 a.m. November 1st. You know what I mean? The Halloween decorations probably stay up for a few days, and maybe the feeling is in the air for me for most of November. So I honestly, to me, maybe a week before Thanksgiving is that's the cutoff, but most of November, that's Halloween, baby.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. It should be Halloween season. It should be this cool down, but Sea of Thieves has just been kind of dropping the ball on all of that stuff in recent years. I don't even. It was such a gradual thing right? They just kind of tapered off. And I think last year they just ripped the pumpkins out of the taverns like very, very early in November. And I was like, well, this sucks.
Yeah, because the last of the Damned event was Return of the Damned, back when they were doing monthly adventures. That was the event where we had to decide if Flameheart was going to come back or if Pendragon was going to get if Flameheart was going to come back and Flamedragon Oh my gosh. If Flameheart was going to come back and Pendragon would be cursed, or if Flameheart would be the one who is cursed, or whatever. Mm. And that must have been 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Everything's such a blur. I can't... especially with Sea of Thieves, where they've changed the way they roll out content numerous times over the lifespan of the game. I can't really keep track. Like, oh, when did the Tall Tales premiere? When was the monthly adventures, and then the infrequent adventures, and then no adventures? It's just... It's a blur.
The early ones are really easy for me. I think the first few years, I would have like an encyclopedic knowledge of every monthly thing that happened for like the first 3 years of the game, and then it just starts to blur when it starts to blur. So, well, let's talk about season 13. That's the new one. Not enough Halloween, but we'll try not to harp on that too much. We've said it. We'll probably say it again later, but we'll try not to.
I just want everybody at Rare and everybody who works on the game to know that they're on notice, that we're not happy about this lack of Halloween.
Thin ice.
Yeah. And maybe they'll think about that the next time.
Yeah. Get your shit together.
Yeah.
All right.
Look how upset you made us.
Yeah, we don't usually swear on this podcast. I've never said a swear before. In my town, the word shit is a swear. I don't know about where you guys come from. And
now it's just leaking out of your mouth like runny Mountain Dew out of a sandwich bag.
We're gonna have to ease into a second bit so we can alternate bits.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna run the Mountain Dew bit too deep, too down in the dirt before we get to the end. We have to come up with a second bit as we go. I don't know. Is Halloween a bit? Well, it'll happen naturally. Why is this so hard? All right.
Jeff, you're having an existential crisis here. You need to rein it in.
I'm overthinking the podcast.
You are.
It's always been so easy for me, Hyle. I'm such a great podcaster. There's no comments in the live stream chat to fall back on. Well, we're just going to have to move on and talk about Sea of Thieves Season 13. Let's get the small stuff out of the way. Because the big stuff is larger, and it comes after in logical order of how you would talk about it. Hyle, during this season, they tweaked the game, Sea of Thieves. They do that every season, so let's talk about those.
Yeah, they tweaked some of the mechanics, which of course would upset a lot of the really hardcore players of Sea of Thieves, the ones who play 12 hours a day, like, Monday through Friday. And it's like, you changed the way I play, you changed the way I grief people. How dare you? Some of these changes are good, and I agree with them. Honestly, I don't really mind any of these changes, to be perfectly frank. The only one that's
I don't have anything big to say about them, yeah.
Yeah, the only one that's a little bit weird to me, because, again, muscle memory, is you can now run with small items, which has been a big thing just up until recently, where if you were carrying anything, like a small little trinket, a skull, whatever, you would have to just walk at your normal brisk pace. You could not run with it. So if somebody was after you, then you couldn't, quickly run away, and they could get up to you and they could, kill you. But I think, and I'm not entirely sure of the reasoning, but I think it's because of the sword they added to the game, which we'll discuss when we talk about the Burning Blade. The mechanics and logistics of that, they were like, well, it doesn't make sense now to not be able to run with everything. But you know what? I actually liked not being able to run with it. I realized it was kind of frustrating to a lot of people, especially just starting out. But the reason I liked it, and I don't know who it was, it might have been Mike Chapman who provided this explanation, but they were asked, why can't our pirates run when they're carrying something so small? And it was just the perfect pithy response. It was because they're afraid they'll drop it. And I was like, that's the most brilliant rare logic I've heard applied to Sea of Thieves. I love that. And now it's no longer true, and I'm a little crestfallen.
Yeah, no, our crests fall down. Gravity. I don't mind it, but I think it's kind of an inelegant solution to a problem. And the problem was the game has started to add in a bunch of items that are both loot that you can deliver for as a treasure loot item, but that same item is also a weapon you can use in combat. They've had a bunch of these. They've added them gradually over time. I don't remember. The first one might have been the Ashen Wind's Skull, which is like a portable flamethrower. But they added the... What do you call that thing? The boomstick.
Trident of Dark Tides?
The Trident of Dark Tides. I kept wanting to call it a scepter, which was stupid. But the Trident of Dark Tides is a cool boomstick. There's that. There's the Ashen Wind Skull. There's the Skull of Siren Song. There's the Horn of Fair Winds. There's now a sword that's in the new season. And all of these things act like a new weapon that you can use. However, they're also a carryable, portable loot item. And so they behave like loot items, which means you can't sprint with them. It means that you can't switch between them and other items, otherwise you just drop them. It means that if you die, you drop them because they're loot items. And all of these things. And they're like, well, if we want to encourage people to use this weapon, they need to be able to sprint and have all of the toolkit of an offensive battle that would be at their disposal in a pirate-to-pirate setting. So they changed it. And I didn't like it because I already didn't like the way they were handling the loot items that are also weapons. And my suggestion was, when you pick up one of these weapons, it should go into your weapon inventory the way that... sometimes when you pick up a carryable item in the game, Hyle, it doesn't go into your inventory. It just goes into your hand. And then the only way you have it is if you have it. And then if you put it down, it sits on the ground, on the dirt. And then you have to come back for it. But there are other times, like, for example, when you're on a tall tale, you can pick up an item... like a key or something. And sometimes those items are not just a thing you have to carry in your hand. They'll go right into your inventory, like a lantern or like a compass or something. And they're in your quest inventory. And then you can never lose them. You can't drop them. And you just have them and you carry them around and you can sprint while you have them. They don't behave the same as other items that you pick up and carry. And so they already do this sort of inconsistency where if they've decided it's an important quest item, they can decide to make it in your inventory instead of in your hand.
Yeah.
They kind of pick and choose when to do this. But with these weapon items, these weapon loot things, they should have done that. They should have said, oh, well, when you pick up an Ashen Wind Skull, it goes into your weapon rotation. So when you press the Y button on your Xbox controller and you switch to your cutlass, and then you press it again, you switch to your blunderbuss, and then you press it again, you switch to your Ashen Wind Skull, and it's there, and it's just a weapon you now carry. And then when you go to the outpost and you want to sell it, it would just leave that inventory, but it would just act as a weapon. It would not behave like a carried item you have to drop or whatever.
Well,
and
what
maybe
about,
if they want to make
stealing it? What about?
Well,
another...
that's the thing.
Yeah.
If they want to make it so that you still drop it when you die, I'd like that. That'd be fine. But I think in terms of the functionality of being able to run around with it, the thing is this. If they want me to take an Ashen Wind Skull or a sword or a trident and battle another player in PvP, it's not going to happen. Because I have to leave my ship, probably by getting into a cannon or jumping overboard in the ocean. Mm-hmm. And then if I fail to board their ship or something happens... I'm just gonna drop the skull in the ocean and mermaid back, and I can't take it with me. Like it does. You can't treat those items the way you treat weapons, and that makes them bad weapons. Like you're never gonna use them in PvP seriously. You're not gonna seriously use them in PvP because they're so brittle. They're so easy to lose and drop. You can't sprint, but you can't use a mermaid. You can't swim. You can't, you're going to lose it. And I think it should be something that is stealable, but I think that being able to steal it when they kill you is a good enough compromise. Well, if I manage to KO you, then you drop it. But in the meantime, you should be able to run around and use it like a sword or a gun that you have in the game. Because otherwise, I'm never going to use it in PvP. They just end up being PvE tools, which are fun, but they should be versatile to do both. As far as I'm aware, they still haven't changed it with the mermaid thing. Yes, you can sprint with them now, but if you try to board their ship with the sword and then you fall in the ocean and you need to get the mermaid, you have to drop the sword and lose it in the ocean. That's not very cool. That's not very nice.
I want to keep going back and forth with you on this very minute topic, but the only thing I would criticize about your thought process here is that a pirate could potentially just stash a valuable item that could be used as a weapon, yes, but they could just stash it in their radial and not actually have it out. And therefore, it's just kind of this easy transport system to get it back to the trading company or the reapers to sell it. And the risk reward is too weighted then to reward, and very little risk.
Well, I think again, if you die, you drop it, even if it was just in your pocket or wherever. But I think that you have to start to look at what do we want this item to serve a purpose in the game? Like, what purpose would it serve? And as a loot item, it serves a certain purpose. And then as a tool you're going to actually utilize for gameplay, it serves a purpose. And you have to find a balance between those two things. What you're saying is that my idea lessens it as a loot item because people can kind of hold onto it too easy and sell it too easy. So then maybe that would need to get reduced in value and then it's less exciting or whatever. I don't know how you'd balance that. But the point is I'm trying to increase its usability so it's not just valuable skull that we don't touch until it's time to sell. Instead, it's we have a weapon, let's go use it, and that will increase different gameplay opportunities and variety and encounters. And, you fight another crew and they actually have the skull and the sword and the trident and are using them against you. How often have you ever fought anybody using any of those items against you? Pretty rare.
Yeah.
I mean, someone will get aboard you with the Ashen Wind Skull, but usually not until after they've already kind of crippled your crew and then get aboard and start spreading. Well, what they'll do is they'll use yours against you.
Right.
But they won't ever bring it aboard as a weapon and run around trying to use it.
Generally, the only time you might think, oh, I should use this is when you're on the same island as the crew, like you're doing the Skull of Siren song, then you're both after it, and then it's more of a defensive strike against them trying to get it rather than it is you using it offensively.
Anyway, long story short, running with small items, it's fine. I think that the loot weapons are still not very viable in genuine PvP. They're good for defense in terms of if you're gonna board, and we're gonna talk about this with when we talk about the world event that comes up.
Yeah,
that's really the only time this comes up. But if someone boards my ship and I happen to have one of these items, I could use it against them to defend my own ship. But I'm never going to grab that item and leave my ship to go combat something else. Unless it's a PvE and we're parked at an island. I'm never going to take my Ashen Wind Skull and try to board another ship and mess with them. Because I might lose it, and that's crazy. I might... And I'm not going to use an Ashen Wind Skull to defend my own ship, because I'm just going to set my own ship on fire. But, yeah, that'll come... That little point will come up... with our Burning Blade talk. But let's move on. Other things, they buffed and nerfed some of the weapons.
Yes.
Most notably, the one we're going to talk about, the blunderbuss.
Yeah. So there's no longer one-shot kills with the blunderbuss.
Woo! I'm just picturing the what is it called? The when they celebrate at the end of Star Wars, and there's like the Ewoks dancing and the Death Star's gone, and everyone's at the end of Star Wars.
Yubnub.
Yubnub and Jib. I don't know. I don't know the Ewoks. I was born in the 90s. I'm a fan. I'm a defender of Return of the Jedi. People act like it's one of the bad Star Wars. I don't know. I like it.
I like bears. I like treetop towns. Yeah.
Luke Skywalker is very imposing when he shows up at the start. He's like, oh wow, oh okay. He's learned some Jedi stuff in the off time.
Han Solo, he gets out of the carbonite and he's all wet and dewy, like he's had Mountain Dew leaked on him from his backpack.
That's true. Did I tell you I got a text from Solo that was a wrong number? Did I tell you this?
Yeah. Well, you shared it with me, not with the podcast audience before us.
Okay. Let's see. Do I have it on my phone? Where is it? I should have it.
We're really getting sidetracked here.
This is bad. Oh, yeah, okay. So I got a text. It said, it's from an unknown number. It said, I need a ride, period, ASAP, period, call me, period, this Solo. I said, who? And they said, Solo. And then they said, sorry, wrong number. So, I don't know, Han, where did you park your Millennium Falcon if you need a ride so bad? And why are you texting me? But anyways, yeah, you can no longer one-shot kill with the blunderbuss is the point of that story.
That's the point of it, yeah. In fact, double gunning in general, it's been a preferred method, right, of PvP players, the people who are like the bunny hoppers, as we call them, the people who are just like, they don't fight like pirates. They fight like they're playing a video game. And it kind of ruins the romanticism of it, in my opinion, because you think about fighting like a pirate. Yes, there's gunplay, but there's also swordplay and parrying and lunging and what have you. And nothing about hopping around like a bunny, like a little manic chaos goblin, comes into that equation. And yet that's how 80% of the people we encounter play the game.
Yeah, and I mean that's the game's fault, really. We've probably talked about it at length before when we talk about weapon balancing, but yeah, this at least helps in the sense of when someone gets aboard you and they're really good at PvP. And when I say really good, what I just mean is that they've played enough to have all this muscle memory and twitch reflexes and stuff that it makes them better than you at the game, but it makes it not fun to fight them. Because they can just, one shot and you're dead, and it's over. And that's not fun. The not having a chance to sort of react to what they've just done is not fun. And they've sort of addressed that. The blunderbuss is no longer a one-shot kill. At best, when you're aiming down sights and you get a full hit, it's like, I think, 90% health.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that now maybe there's even more spread when you're not aiming down the sights, so getting that sort of hip fire will be less effective. And then the other thing is lots of knockback. Now it's supposed to now be pretty reliable in terms of being able to knock someone over a ledge, and I think the intention is that this is going to help you defend your ship from people boarding because you can knock them off easier with a blunderbuss. But it's not an instant kill like onezo dunzo maneuver anymore.
Yeah, my favorite Muppet.
What do you think?
Yeah. No, I'm in favor of this change, and I realize it's pretty late in the game to be making a change like this after over 6 years of the game's life, but it's long overdue. It's just not fun to fight people, as you just said, because they're generally they spam this one strategy, and it just makes it a chore and something you avoid. There's no like mental engagement when you get attacked. It's basically like I love the ship-to-ship combat in this game, but when they actually get aboard your ship, it's tiring, and it's tiring because of the way the majority of people play it. And so I'm all in favor of making them use their brains more. That's what I'll say about that.
Yeah. Well, and I think the reason the change happened now and not years ago is because they're apparently adding tools in the next season that are maybe make it easier for you to board other people's ships.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they said, well, if we're going to make it even easier to engage in this sort of strategy, maybe we need to make sure it's not too OP. So that's what they did, and we like that change. That's good. Other changes to weapons, they're minor nitpicky details. They're not the subject of kings like us, Hyle. We let our advisors think about those details. But I did like that they did it. They increased the frequency that you can find the Horn of Fair Winds, which was a big an addition to the previous season that allows you get this conch shell, this ocean shell that will blow magic wind that will give your sails wind on your ship at any time. And that's awesome. It's a really cool tool. But when they first added it, you would never encounter one. They were so rare, so uncommon. And now they've changed that. They appear more frequently, and you're guaranteed to get one if you go to a Siren Treasury to battle that. You're going to get one down there in the treasure vault.
It's one of our criticisms last time is that you can't find the Horn of Fair Winds. And Rare is like, oh, we're so sorry, Hyle and Jeff. We'll get right on that. Which is why I know next year is going to be a spectacular year for Halloween in Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, they're listening to all of our requests.
Yeah.
Somebody get Han Solo a ride. He's looking for... Call him ASAP, Rare. But no, I think that's all the small stuff.
Yeah.
We don't like to sweat the small stuff. Actually, all the small things was in the game Donkey Konga. See, the Donkey Kong fans have stuff to appreciate. This isn't all secret things. She left me roses by the stairs, etc. Pan.
Well, there's
Let's talk about
lots
the big
of stairs to leave roses by on the Burning Blade, Jeff.
That was good. All right, the Burning Blade is a ship in Sea of Thieves lore. Many of you know it. Those of you who don't, please re-listen to the previous 1,300 episodes of the... No, I'm just kidding. 1,200. We're not at 1,300. We're at 1,200. Calm down. The Burning Blade is Captain Flameheart's ship, and it has previously appeared in the game in apparition form, memory specters, but now they've rebuilt the darn boat, and not only have they rebuilt it, they being the Reaper's Bones bad guys, they've made it into a world event. And they've done it because Captain Flameheart himself is returned and he's back. His ship's back and he's back and they're all back. And they're back. But we're going to talk about him later. We're first going to talk about the ship. So cool.
Yeah. They've been building us, what, it was a Shipwreck Bay?
Shipwreck Bay, where it's got, it, for a moment, had the two most famous ships in the game. The other one, and then this one.
The Black Witch and the rebuilt Burning Blade. Of course, the Burning Blade's still in the game as a memory ghost, so that gets confusing. But Sea of Thieves lore is so convoluted now. I really don't know how anybody could enter the game as it exists right now and really understand 100% of what's happening. But you've got the rebuilt Burning Blade, as you said, built by the Reapers, and it is a rotating world event along with the Skeleton Forts and Fort of Fortunes and Ashen Winds and skeleton armada battles and the spectral Burning Blade ghost fleet battles. So you can see a beacon out on the water, rising up on a server, and that's the Burning Blade. You can also see it on the map. And the Burning Blade itself, it's the biggest ship in the game. We've never seen a ship quite this hefty. It's 10 cannons, 5 on each side. We've got a crew of obsidian, which means immune to fire, skellies crewing it, and it's got a front-facing flamethrower. What's the name of it? The Ashen Roar?
I think so. Yeah. It's for me. It's just I of course think about the ship of the real historical pirate Captain Blackbeard when he had a front-facing flamethrower in Pirates of the Caribbean 4.
That's right.
Which is probably the best one. Yeah.
So the other week, my wife and I, we went to the spot where they actually took Blackbeard's severed head and like strung it up, because we found out it was here in Virginia, and we were like, well, we have to go visit the spot where they strung up Blackbeard's severed head. That'll be a fun day out. So we went, and you know, they have a historical marker there, and I read the historical marker forwards and backwards because I was so confused, Jeff. They didn't mention that he's a voodoo master.
Yeah, Hyle, I was just going to ask you, but the 3 different revelations about him in Pirates of the Caribbean 4, which one's your favorite? Those 3 being that he had a flame-throwing ship, that he was a master of voodoo, and his quartermasters and helmsmen and all these people were zombies in the voodoo sense of the word. Or then number 3 is that magic sword that can control ropes. Which of the 3 is the best of the ones? I have my answer. So what do you?
Well, I think it's the rope controlling, because the first 2 at least make sense. The third one leaves me confounded. It's like, why was that necessary? And so therefore I'm thinking about it more.
Yeah. Well, and for me, it's a sex thing. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
right.
So yeah, the burning blade. God, I've gotten so off. The flame has a flamethrower. That's right. But you can go out and you can fight this ship. It's an AI roaming ship with skeleton crew, and you can fight it. If you are gonna, if you manage to defeat it in battle, it'll enter into this sort of holding phase where it is immobilized, and that's communicated pretty clearly. It's in this sort of dead drift, and you can board it, and then you're presented with this cool choice of whether you want to sink the ship and take the spoils of battle, or pledge allegiance, pledge loyalty to Captain Flameheart and become the crew of the ship.
That's right. Yeah, I think you have 10 minutes to make this decision, otherwise it will just sink. But if you do choose to pledge yourself to Flameheart, what will happen is your crew's own ship will then scuttle. It'll just kind of go into limbo for the duration of the time you are sailing on the Burning Blade. The Burning Blade is your ship. However, it is still treated by the game as a world event. So effectively, you are in control of the world event. You are the boss of the game, as they pitched it back when Season 13 rolled out. And, you know, there's a few things you can do if you do crew the Burning Blade. You can obviously just go around sinking people, which I saw several people do at the onset of the season, just people taking over the Burning Blade, and then they go terrorize Outpost or what have you. But there's actually a task, an objective underlying all of it. That's optional, but if you want more gold, if you want more renown, you will go this route. And that's you go around to the skeleton camps, which we'll talk to. It's a whole separate component of the season, but they are intertwined. And the whole time this season has been live, we fought the Burning Blade maybe a couple of times. We only took it over once. And the time we took it over wasn't a time you were sailing with us, Jeff. So I did not actually take over the Burning Blade with you, our tactician. The one who's always the most adept at naval combat or even just PvP in general. So we were just feeling our oats that day, and we were like, yeah, let's do it. But I like my thoughts on, well, I should say, if you do sink it, if you choose to sink it, you can get in possession of the MacGuffin, the big treasure item from the Burning Blade is the, what the hell is it called?
It's the Blade of Souls. I wrote in the notes Sword of Souls once, and I wrote Blade of Souls later because it's confusing. And the
Burning Blade of Souls, maybe? Yeah.
Something like that.
Which is actually a blade. It's not a ship that's the Burning Blade, but this is a literal Burning Blade, but it's the Burning Blade of Souls.
This is the first time that Sea of Thieves has named something in a way that is confusing between multiple things.
First time it's ever happened. This is an anomaly. It's never going to happen again. But, and I say that after we already brought the Ashen Roar, which just combines two quite frequent naming conventions. They just a lot of compound words that they reuse. It's like those refrigerator magnets we've talked about. But this sword, it's a loot item. You can use it as a regular sword, but when you swipe people with it, they'll also be lit on fire. So it's hugely problematic, because the worst thing that can happen to you in any PvP encounter, or honestly PvE, is if your ship is set on fire, because it's the most chaotic, like, this situation is spiraling out of control situation. If you don't get that fire under control, you're done eventually.
It really throws a fun wrench. I mean, it can be fun. It throws a fun wrench into balancing your priorities, which that's the thing about Sea of Thieves combat. Sea of Thieves is not like a Fortnite or a Call of Duty or any traditional like PvP shooting game, because when my ship is up against your ship, you have a naval component, you have a player-to-player component, and what it becomes is not just a direct like sport of skill of like it's not straight combat. It becomes a game of spinning plates. That's what Sea of Thieves is. Sea of Thieves is about spinning plates, because you're constantly defending like 6 different things to think about while going on offensive against the other crew's 6 different things to think about, or whatever. That number just is a random number, but that's the thing, is that fire can then become one of those things. Whenever you described me as our tactician, I think that's part of what I provide to the crew, is the high level thinking of like calling out what needs to be done when, because I know what we need to prioritize at times. And it's like, okay, yes, we're taking on water, but if I know it's one little hole, I will know not to stop. You know, we don't need 4 people to stop what we're doing and go patch one hole.
No, you seal up the sandwich bag, and then it should be airtight.
It's a zip lock, Glade. What's the company that makes Ziploc? Is it called Ziploc? Is that a brand name? Ziploc a brand name?
Pretty sure that's the brand name. Glade's the plug-in company.
Yeah, it's not Glade. I don't think it's Glade. But it's one of those words that is a brand name, but also it's so synonymous to me. Like Kleenex. Earlier, I said Kleenex tissue. Kleenex is a brand, not a
Band-Aid.
thing.
Yeah.
Band-Aid is a brand. Okay. Ziploc. Anyway, when you need to Ziploc your ship, you don't necessarily need 4 people to go down there and do it if it's just the one little hole. But that's what fire adds to the gameplay is, you can get away with ignoring it for a minute, but it's like a logarithmic, threat. Okay, 1 little fire becomes 2, and then 2 becomes 4, and then whatever. And you need to keep track of that, and that's the thing. That's what fire does, and the fire sword is huge for that. But what's really great is that the Burning Blade ship itself is immune to fire. You can't set that ship on fire, and even better, you can't set those skeletons on fire because they're obsidian. And I don't know if we said this, but when you become the crew of the Burning Blade, the skeletons join your side. You are not just a crew of 4 players or 2 players or whatever players. You also have a crew of skeletons helping you out. So you've got AI that's on your side, and that's always fun when that happens in the game.
Yeah, and not just the obsidian skellies on the Burning Blade itself, but any obsidian skellies on the skeleton camps will also just leave you be. So it's a weird feeling, honestly. I know they just added the bone colors the other season, and so the idea of having skellies fighting on your side, it's not even new, but it still feels disconcerting, when they just walk right by you. Because you're so conditioned to be like, skeleton, and then you swipe them with your sword.
That's me right now because it's currently October 11th, and I have put out my Halloween decorations. I've decorated for Halloween, and I have a skeleton, and I've dressed him up, and I've changed his dress a few times, his outfit for the occasion that I'm hosting, but I keep getting scared by my own skeleton. I walk in the room and I it's not that I have this fear of like, a skeleton and that's a frightening thing. It's more just that like out of the corner of my eye, I think there's a person sitting there that I'm not expecting to see. And it keeps making me go, huh? Like here's another example. I bought the orange spooky Halloween Oreos.
Oh, that's very spooky.
Yeah. It is, because I was eating one, and on one side of the Oreo has the normal cookie that is just a normal Oreo cookie with its sort of pattern in it, and it says Oreo. And on the other side, there's 5 different spooky designs, and of course, orange cream in the middle. I don't. You can't eat Oreos, right?
No, Oreos are vegan.
Oh, well, there we go. It's not against Vigo. The Carpathians ways.
It's not. No, Vigo might not approve of the Oreos I just bought, which were the lemon variety.
Okay, good reference. You've one-upped me. But when you look at the back of the Oreo, it's got these 5 different designs, and I was eating an Oreo, and I kind of looked at it, and it was normal Oreo, and I took a bite, and then I turned it over, and on the back side, it just said in all big letters, "Boo!" And I jumped.
Yeah, that's one haunted cookie, Jeff. But so the Burning Blade, basically you take it over, you become the world event, and of course other crews can then challenge you, and you've got all of these offensive capabilities. The Ashen Roar, the big Blackbeard and Pirates of the Caribbean 4 flamethrower at the front of the ship. It's definitely overpowered, but there is a cooldown. So if the crew you're fighting manages to evade you as you launch it, you cannot just keep spamming it. You can't just spin around in circles spamming it until you hit them. There is a cooldown. So it's hard to evade, but it's not completely unfair either.
But it's very interesting because what it does is, and we didn't play it enough, I think, to like become pros at what is the strategy, like what's the right way to do this. I'm also the kind of the steerer, which is a pirate term for the guy who turns the wheels. I'm our ship steerer. And it's very different because normally in a naval battle, it's really, really good if you can get the nose of their ship pointed at the broadside of your ship, right?
Right.
And a lot of times you try to make that happen. I'm like, well, it'd be pretty cool if their nose was pointed at our broadside because then they could not shoot us, but then we could shoot them. That's how that works with pirate ships. But when their nose is made of flamethrower breath, that sucks. That's really tough. That's hard. And so it makes it really limited what types of approach you can make that it's safe. Like, how do I maneuver this in a way where we're not going to be taking fire, or we're going to minimize the fire? I don't mean fire literally like heat. I mean fire generally, which includes fire, literally heat, but also cannon fire. Let me rephrase that. How are we going to approach this to limit our damage from
Yeah.
whatever source that might be, the sides of the ship or the front of their ship, and it's really tough. They're pretty fun / difficult to fight, and I'm not sure I got the hang of it, but it's interesting.
Yeah, so the first time we fought the Burning Blade, and I say we, meaning just the Stream of Thieves crew. Again, you weren't there. We sailed up. We're just gonna fight the Burning Blade, and another crew had already disabled them. Had already gotten it into that 10-minute like state of defeat. And they were actually on board, I guess, exploring the Burning Blade, but they had yet to pledge their loyalty to Flameheart. We didn't really know what was happening at the time, so we just sailed up. We saw the Burning Blade wasn't moving. There was no fanfare. We saw their ship was like nearby with the sail raised. Nobody was apparently on it, or we couldn't see anybody on their ship. So we just started firing on the Burning Blade, and we sank it. And we deprived them of getting to pledge themselves to Flameheart. Now, we did not get a point for sinking the Burning Blade because they had already gotten that victory. But we did get the Burning Blade of Souls, the fire sword. We did get that. We sank their sloop in the process. We were really just terrible to these people. It was a 2-person sloop. And that was our first encounter with the Burning Blade. Very anticlimactic, very nothing, but we did get the Blade of Souls. So the second time we fought it when it was AI, and we actually fought it, and we actually took it over, and we did pledge ourselves to Flameheart, of course, with the little headcanon that our pirates aren't actually pledging themselves to Flameheart, because we don't go for that Reaper shit. We just go undercover, so we know what's up with the Reapers. And the thing about being on the Burning Blade, it's a very disorienting experience, because if you've played Sea of Thieves for one complete session, and however you want to define a session as far as the length of time goes, that's up to you. But anybody who is familiar with the game knows the layout of your preferred ship. So if you are used to playing on a galleon's layout in Sea of Thieves will be just secondhand nature. You'll know it like the back of your hand. And same with a brig, same with a sloop. Like, you just know where to go instinctively, where the barrels are, where the sails are, where the capstan is, where the wheel is. The Burning Blade is an entirely new architectural structure. It's a new ecosystem in Sea of Thieves. So you don't know where you're going. It's all just confusing. It's the largest ship in the game, so you tend to get lost. There's a lot to look at. There's like a little lore journal and everything. So it's easy to get distracted. It's easy to turn around. You're not feeling like you're at your best. And all of a sudden now you are the big bad on the server and all eyes are on you. So you better figure it out quick. So it was a very high stress situation actually taking over the Burning Blade. Not the least of which is just the pang of guilt when your ship gets scuttled and now all of a sudden you're on like Satan's luxury yacht. And you're just like, what am I doing with my life? Am I making a mistake? Just that moral arc has took me here. But, yeah, like it was a lot of fun to actually be on it because you do get that power trip, right? Like, oh, yeah, like anybody want to mess with me? Come on. You kind of feel like you're beyond your usual means of offensive capabilities because you are. The only downside is you don't really have a handle on it yet. And I'm sure some people have done this enough now where the Burning Blade is second nature to them. But I'm certainly not there yet, having only done it once.
Yeah. We'll get into like the lore of it and the kind of buildup of it and all of that sort of stuff. But just on the face of it, I think there might have been a little bit too much hype about it because of how in the lore of the game, the Burning Blade and Flameheart are such a big deal in the ongoing story. This seemed like this should be like the biggest moment ever. maybe some people felt that way. But if you just look at it as what it is, a world event where there's a big, awesome, like, monster ship, and then you get to take it over and pilot it, crew it yourselves. That's awesome. That's just like a pretty straightforward, no-brainer idea of something they should put in Sea of Thieves. And they did it, and now you have it, and it's cool. Like, if you put it on the level of all the other world events, and you just think of it in those terms, like, this is one of the world events that there are, this is great. This is like, it certainly meets that threshold of just a cool world event you can do. You can take over a cool big ship. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like maybe it didn't hit the expectations because of how the plot of the game had stagnated and how this sort of just dropped this big moment without advancing the plot in a organic kind of way. Maybe we'll get into that, but I also feel like they get a little weird with it in terms of they get a little weird. They're stuffing Kleenex down the can hole when they say, "Okay, we've done this event where you can have a cool ship. Now, what's the point of it? Go do a skeleton camp is a new thing."
Yeah.
So let's.
Yeah.
I kind of think that might be where the misstep, or maybe not the misstep, but certainly the disconnect here is of where something went wrong here. I don't know, but let's talk about that. What are skeleton camps?
Yeah, so skeleton camps, this has been kind of in the works for a while. They've been having these construction sites on 6 of these smaller islands throughout Sea of Thieves. And those islands are Lagoon of Whispers, Picaroon Palms, Lookout Point, Barnacle Key, Blind Man's Lagoon, and Shiver Retreat. So 6 small islands in the game are now permanently, I don't want to say destroyed, but they've got these enormous structures on them. These they almost look like lighthouses, but they're kind of like these big mines almost that go down into caverns below. And there are 6 ancient temples. And these ancient temples are built by the ancients. They used to populate the Sea of Thieves. And they project these constellations up above. Now, the lore behind it is that Flameheart's obsidian skeletons, the fireproof ones, they dug these up so they could get into these ancient vaults, which house Orb of Secrets. Orbs of Secret. However you want to parse that out. But these orbs, and I think this is one of my problems with Sea of Thieves, latter-day Sea of Thieves, is they listen too much to their very online community. And maybe this makes me a hypocrite, I don't know. But a couple of holiday seasons ago, they did these Yule log Twitch streams, right? And they would have this kind of like a fortune teller's crystal ball, which they call fans called the Orb. And this was actually based on a Plunder Pass, maybe not the Plunder Pass, but just the seasonal renown track lantern that you could get.
And it's really just a snow globe, is what it is.
It's a snow globe, right. But they used it for the purposes of this Twitch stream as a fortune teller's crystal ball, and they would provide clues. If you just sat watching this Yule log for all hours on end, occasionally they would throw in this glimpse of Sea of Thieves in the year to come. Tantalizing clues. Ooh. I don't know. None of us have the time for that at DK Vine. We've got lives to lead, right? We've got to drink beer outdoors. It's just, it's who we are. But the orb, as the fans started to calling it, kind of took off, and Rare was like, oh, we've got something here with the orb. So now we've got the Orb of Secrets in the game. It's kind of this other MacGuffin of this whole interlocking season 13 gameplay loop, if you will. The Orbs of Secrets are just these ancient repositories of knowledge, like the lost knowledge of like a more wizened time, right? So Flameheart wants this knowledge that was lost. And if you're crewing the Burning Blade, you can go to one of these camps and do this ritual where you basically absorb the knowledge from the orb into the Burning Blade of Souls. And then that ticks up. The Burning Blade of Souls will now have like 1 point to it. Number go up, smiley face. And
Hey.
you keep doing that, and the Burning Blade of Souls will therefore be more valuable to Flameheart, who is currently now stationed at the Reaper's hideout, along with his son, the Servant of the Flame. And so you take this this sword that gets ever more valuable. It's just like the hourglass battles. The more you do successfully, the more it's worth. But then the risk reward, it's like, oh, now this is more valuable, and now more people will want it, and we become bigger targets. When do we cash it in? When do we say that's good enough? Let's get out while the getting's good. You can do that if you are crewing the Burning Blade. However, these skeleton camps are also available to players who aren't crewing the Burning Blade. And the lore of that then is you have to disrupt the ritual by stealing the orb and then selling it to one of the more good aligned trading companies, or at least neutral trading companies compared to the Reapers. And to get into the orb, you've got to align these constellations, similar to what we've seen in Tall Tales of yore. Just kind of a tweaked gameplay mechanic. And yeah, you get attacked by obsidian skellies along the way who cannot be hurt by fire.
Yeah. This whole event, it's not an event, this whole activity of the skeleton camps, the ancient temples, it's interesting. I think it's fun a handful of times. I think the whole thing, honestly, is kind of a mess in terms of... I mean, I think really on a fundamental level, maybe everything about what it is and how it is not what it should be, probably. I liked it. First of all, I think that they've run into this problem slightly in the past, here and there. When you do Sea of Thieves is at war with itself when it is trying to be a thing where we make an activity that you can and should repeat 5,000 times. And that's kind of the core of what Sea of Thieves is. But then we also want to make an activity that gives you the puzzle-solving thrills of the genre that this is, like an Indiana Jones or a Pirate of the Caribbean, and this sort of pulp adventure game feel. So we're going to make a puzzle, and you're going to solve it. And when they do the latter, if it's like a tall tale, it's something that you maybe do 1 times. Or maybe you could repeat it sometimes, because you can. But it's not something you're going to do 5,000 times, because once you know the answer to a puzzle, you know the answer to the puzzle, and now it's dumb. And those two things kind of don't work in the same game sometimes. I think the Tall Tales work as like a fun one-off activity, and they're these event thrill rides, these like big moments in Sea of Thieves. But they're not the things you're going to grind every day 1,000 times. And I think it's really weird when they put a thing in the game, in the sandbox side of the game, in the grind progression side of the game, that's not a tall tale. It's not a one-time single-player type story linear thing. But then they put in a puzzle where the answer to what you do is the same every time, and yet they're putting it in that part of the game where they want you to do it 5,000 times.
Right.
And I think that alone already like is a big nail in the coffin on this whole idea. Skeleton Camp is cool, but it's like not something I should be grinding. It just kind of doesn't work. It works if it was like an adventure or a tall tale, but it doesn't really work.
So I think the like ancient temples and the skeleton camps themselves, but the ancient temples in particular, they're really cool environments. You've got these projected star fields above you. It's really like it does feel unique and fresh at first when you're using the like stargazer to like connect the stars to make the constellations above you to open the doors. Like I do enjoy that. The problem is there are 6 of them, right? And at a certain point, it just gets a bit rote. It's just like, all right, yeah, well, we've done that. Let's go do something else. And that sets in fairly quick. Like, if you're a completionist, you'll want to knock off all the commendations, and you'll want to like read all the lore journals. And yeah, there are lore journals inside the ancient temples underneath the skeleton camps. And we'll get into a little bit of the lore in just a few minutes, and how I think burned out, no pun intended, a lot of us are on just the notion of Sea of Thieves lore at the moment. But it's like Tasha, the tavern keeper who had the skelly arm, but then the magic sword wished it away. Her deceased mom and Briggsy, like long ago, explored these temples, and here's their lore journals. And I don't care. I can't think of I'm sorry. I can't think of a set of characters I care less about right now than Tasha and her family and Briggsy. They kind of salted the earth there, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was a thread that they really cut off at the knees, or cut off at the skeleton arm, and yeah, it's just...
They made it really stupid all around. But, like, I enjoyed these at first. And then it just got to be the same old. And that really encapsulates, I think, the whole issue with the Burning Blade World event, where there's a lot of really fun individual pieces, but something doesn't quite come together for me. And I assume for you too, Jeff, and I assume for others out there. Maybe not everyone. Maybe this is like the event for people, and I'm really happy that you're enjoying it. I've enjoyed it quite a bit myself, and thankfully I only play once a week, so I don't really, no pun intended, burn myself out. But I think there are a few fundamental flaws with the way they structured all of this. The one I realized a couple weeks ago, I think there's too many skeleton camps, Jeff. I think 6 is a ridiculous number. I think they've sacrificed too many islands to this. Too many islands that are now just irreparably ruined. I mean, Lagoon of Whispers was the island that Umbra was stationed on. They had to move Umbra to, what is it, Sanctuary or Plunder? Where is she now?
I think she's on Sanctuary, yeah.
Sanctuary, yeah. They had to completely uproot one of the most vital NPCs for like a whole accommodation tract. They had to upend her because they were like, well, you know, we got to use this island for this, so get out of here, Umbra. And like, I'm fine with the occasional like permanent change in a game. Like, I know this one cuts close to your bone, Jeff. Skeleton, but Golden Sands Outpost becoming Port Merrick. You know, I enjoy stuff like that, this evolving landscape. But I'm also thinking, you know, you've got to be very conservative when you do that, lower C conservative, because you need to keep in mind that this isn't something you can just easily reverse if it doesn't work out. And I think 6 islands, not only does it just create too many of the very closely similar designed skeleton camps across Sea of Thieves, but it also negates, I think, what Rare was hoping for, to create choke points where if a crew is captaining the Burning Blade, then if they are trying to increase the power, the knowledge in the Burning Blade of Souls, the chances that they're going to encounter you in a skeleton camp is not high because there are 6 to choose from. So crews can just go back and forth, the Burning Blade crew and player crews, and never encounter each other because there are 6, like 2 in each region, not including the Devil's Roar. So had they reduced the number to 3, like 1 per region, or even just 2, then they might have created that choke point. Then they might have created that back and forth, that sense of fear that we have got to finish this. We've got to disrupt this ritual fast because the Burning Blade is on its way. The chances that's going to happen are few and far between. And most of the time, you're just going to be in a skeleton camp by yourself, your crew. Burning Blade will be off somewhere else, if it's even out at all. And there's no real fear. There's no real pressure. There's no adrenaline pumping because nobody is encountering each other.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk in a second about, like, I think maybe the biggest problem and why this just fundamentally really doesn't work for me. But yeah, I'll say that's huge. The fact that there's too many of them for the Burning Blade to go to, and it doesn't feel like it drives people towards each other. It doesn't feel like, okay, if you want to do one of these, there's only so many options, and it's going to be right out where the Burning Blade's going to see you and come for you, or whatever. They should have had just maybe 1 per region, and they're all like close to the center of the map, so the Burning Blade can quickly triangle between them. Or maybe, like you said, even just 2, so the Burning Blade can ping pong just between 2 locations. And then it creates this sort of like zone of terror where the Burning Blade will frequent, and whether you're doing a skeleton camp or not, that area of the sea is dangerous, and it creates this thrilling dynamic. But instead, it feels like the Burning Blade just kind of roams around everywhere, and the odds that you run into them are slim because they're just the whole map is around. So I agree with that. And then the thing I said before about how the actual activity you're doing on this island is a puzzle that you kind of solve once, and once you've done that, every future time you do it is sort of going through the motions. That's bad for a thing that if you're a crew that wants to man the Burning Blade and tick up its value and like go and defend it and raise the value a bunch, you're just repeating this thing that in theory you could repeat 5,000 times, but it stopped being fun after 2.5 of those times. I agreed with you. I wanted to point out, everything you said about the environment, it's beautiful. It's so cool. The first time you go into those caverns, the starscape, the location, the layouts of them are all unique, which I appreciate because when they did the Sea Phantom Forts, they made them all the same layout, which I really was bothered by. They're cool. They're very cool for like a one-off event, maybe like an adventure. Although we're not even going to get into that. The game shouldn't be pouring resources into things that are one-off events, but the structure of the gameplay of it just doesn't invite you to repeat it, in my opinion. Yeah. It's rough. It's rough. It's not what it should be.
And to bring your point forward a little bit more, this land-based activity where if you take over the Burning Blade, we had to make the decision when we took over the Burning Blade. It was like, well, we're going to do skeleton camps, and we did, but it was a very kind of discouraging thing because we just wanted to play on the Burning Blade, and all of a sudden now somebody on your crew, at least one person, is going to have to leave the Burning Blade and not just go on land, but go underground where you can't even see the Burning Blade. Like, you're separating yourself entirely from the coolest aspect of this season. And it's just like, who wants to do that? No, I understand why so many crews were just terrorizing people with it, because that's a lot more viscerally fun than the laborious, monotonous skeleton camps. And again, like, skeleton camps are cool. And if they were reduced in number, and maybe if everything didn't hinge on them, it would be this occasional thing where it's like, oh, let's do a skeleton camp. We haven't done a skeleton camp in a while. Kind of like those ancient vaults, it's like, oh, we haven't done an ancient vault in a while. Yeah. And that's fun because you got to like race against the clock to try to get everything out, to try to get the big chest, before the door shuts and everything floods with water, a la in Indiana Jones. I mean, that's
right. That's a Mountain Dew and a Ziploc baggie.
Yeah, that's still. I can see why your coworker did that now, because the thrill alone of the risk. It's like, when is this Mountain Dew gonna seep out of the can, because this tissue is just not doing its job? You don't know. And so every step you take is a step in the danger zone. I get it now, but I feel like everything, even the Phantom Sea forts, the architecture is the same, but it's still a fun, like, mini raid. It's still a little
the activity itself. The activity itself is fun to repeat.
Yeah.
Whereas this activity is kind of monotonous to repeat. But right. I wanted to repeat what you said. The whole thing is, you've taken over the Burning Blade. You now have the coolest ship in the game. What do you do with it? The number one thing you're supposed to do with it is now get off of it and go on land.
Yeah.
And what you said, it's such a good observation. You're not even going on land. You're going subterranean, where you can't even see or defend your ship. Like, if you're the Burning Blade crew and you all go do this ancient temple, your ship could be sunk while you're not even watching. And vice versa, if you are another crew doing an ancient temple, and then the Burning Blade crew shows up, your ship can be sunk when you're not even watching. Or you can do the lamest thing you can do, which is, of course, the thing you're gonna do every time. You can leave someone to play lookout and not actually play the game Sea of Thieves. One person has to sit behind and do nothing, just out of safety's concern, and watch the ship. To me, it's like opening 2 cans of Mountain Dew at the same time. Like, you want to have your Mountain Dew, and you want to have another one too, okay? And there's sort of a parable about that, and it just doesn't make sense. I want to ask you, maybe if you have thoughts on what you would have liked better, but for me, doesn't it feel obvious that whatever the Burning Blade does as an activity, like whatever the kickoff, like, oh, you have the Burning Blade, why don't you go do this now? That should have been a naval activity, right? Probably
absolutely.
A battle.
Yeah. I don't know mechanically. Like, I haven't sat down and broken down what Rare should have done in Season 13, but I do agree, like, it should have been confined to the open sea. It's so weird to me. And I didn't really process this when we were doing it, when we were going off into the skeleton camps and having somebody jump off or having somebody play lookout. I didn't really process it at the time, but I was like, this is really disjointed. This doesn't feel like, oh, my crew has the most powerful ship in the game, the evilest ship in the game. Because your crew immediately gets fragmented. It gets broken apart and gets separated from the ship. And I understand the risk reward there. I understand why, maybe in theory, that's fun. But it's so counter to how people would naturally want to play this that just the execution leaves me wanting.
And if you go to do the ancient temple and somebody comes along while you're underground and they sink your ship, then you're probably going to have to text someone, maybe a wrong number, and say something like, I need a ride ASAP. Call me. This is
your second bit. This is the second bit you decided on, was the solo.
Yeah, no, we're really good at podcasting. We figured it out. We've nailed it. I think that doing a naval event would have been better. Whether it is my thinking, I was just brainstorming this earlier today, so I haven't put a lot of thought into this. But I was like, what if there was a pirate lord aligned counter example to the Flameheart ghost fleets.
Mm-hmm.
And when you crew the Burning Blade, then the Guardians of Fortune, or the Athena's Fortune clan, will spring up a fleet to attack you, and you could go attack them or whatever, or maybe they'll constantly chase you or whatever, something. And then my other thought was, but just something to give you a reason to go do naval battles on this cool ship you have. That's the tool.
Yeah.
Here's the hammer. Go find the nail. My other thought was, and not everything has to be PvP. I get that people might want a cool ship for battling, but not want to do PvP. That's fine. But something they could have done is make it so people can hourglass spawn battle upon the Burning Blade. You know what I mean? Like where the ships come out of the ocean ready to attack you.
Mm-hmm.
Like what if you, as the crew of the Burning Blade, were constantly under threat of invading ships? Like you sail around, do what you want, battle others, but you are a target, and now ships will rise out of the water to meet you occasionally. That could be something they could have done. All of this was not, I've not run any of this through any like advanced thinking because I'm not capable of that. But it's just some shower thoughts I had during work today while I was showering.
You don't think about mottos for the podcast, but you do think about how they could have made a better player experience.
Yeah, I do. I do think about that. I think about that every day of my life. Sea of Thieves. I'm like, well, why don't they make it so that you can swim with the Ash and Wind Skull? I don't know what they're not thinking. But is it time to get into the elephant in the womb?
Well, the elephant comes later. The elephant comes when we talk about the promotional stuff this season. But you mean Flameheart himself?
Yeah, that guy. What's his name?
Yeah.
Flameheart.
You couldn't remember. You called him Flame Dragon earlier, so
there's so many names in Sea of Thieves. They're all compound words. It's tough out here. It's tough.
It is.
Flameheart is back. He's back in the flesh, but not. He's back in the flesh in so much as that guy on the movie Poltergeist who removed all his flesh in the bathroom mirror.
Yeah.
That's about as much as Flameheart is back. Which is to say a skeleton.
Of course, Flameheart's been in the game for numerous years as a floating ghost head, but like Andros in Star Fox Adventures, he's finally gone from ghost to physical incarnate of Flameheart. So he's back as the big nasty Skelly Daddy.
And that Star Fox villain is also what I say after I've listed the first 5 members of the show Friends. Then I say, and Ross. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I got it. I laughed, and I was like, you don't even need to finish this, Jeff. I know where this is. I know where this is going.
The audience is in a little fun moment because they're going to know or not whether you're a good friend or not, depending on if they hear this bit or if it's been edited out.
No, I'm not editing this out. That's a quality bit.
If you care about me, it gets cut. But no, we're gonna leave it.
No, here's the thing. Why that was so apt, Jeff? Because and Ross was also the one who cavorted with monkeys, and I believe
that's true.
And Ross is a monkey, and he cavorts with other monkeys. So it's all sound.
Do you think they named him after that?
Yeah.
So Flameheart's back. What do we think of this?
So
how is he? Well, should we tell them how he's back? In what context?
He's sitting in the chamber of the Reaper's hideout, like Santa Claus at the mall. He's sitting there, and you can talk to him. You can sell him the sword. That's it.
Yep, that's it. That's it.
So I think people were upset about this, and it honestly, bizarrely enough, made me think of Star Fox Adventures. So one of the biggest criticisms or critiques of Star Fox Adventures, from people who get invested in the game, is that it builds up general scales. And as a villain, you're like, I can't wait to fight this guy. I can't wait to bring this bastard down a peg. And then what happens is he gets the vapors. He falls over. And then that's it. You don't fight him. He just kind of faints and dies. And it's quite pathetic. And, I mean, of course, it segues then into Andros being the true villain of the game, but people are upset because they were invested in the idea of General Scales. General Scales is going to create so much havoc, he's going to do so much damage, he's going to wreck Fox. Doesn't happen in the game, and people are still salty about it. And I think a similar thing is happening now with Flameheart, where he's been built up for so long, and his return as this imminent thing, this foreboding doom, this, like, cloud perpetually growing larger over the Sea of Thieves. It's been being built up very well, I would say, for several years, since the first Tall Tale post Shores of Gold. They have been working on the Flameheart arc. And now he's back, and it's really a whole lot of nothing. And yes, the Burning Blade is there, and the Burning Blade is really neat. It's nifty. But I think the lack of engagement with Flameheart as a character, the lack of getting able to, attack him with your sword or shoot at him or having him breathe fire on you. Like, I understand on one hand why they would want to marry Flameheart to a permanent part of the game. And Flameheart himself doesn't have to be a permanent part of this. You don't need Flameheart's presence in and of itself to have the Burning Blade work. The way he's stationed right now, you can very easily remove him from the Reaper's hideout and just have the Servant of the Flame do everything, and it wouldn't create any issues. But I think we thought this was going to be the payoff, and there is really no payoff to speak of.
Yeah, it just feels like the next like little breadcrumb. And if this had just come out in the year, let's say 2020 or 2021, when at that time, before they had launched seasons in Sea of Thieves, where every season had a headlining feature, they were still doing monthly updates. And the monthly updates were getting, at that time, big title treatments most of the months, and usually a big marquee feature. And it was this sort of spread of Flameheart's influence, because they had the what's the name of the Tall Tale where Flameheart comes back? It's the one with Pendragon, but they had that Tall Tale, and then they had also had the follow-up Tall Tale, the Heart of Fire, and they had brought in like Ashen Guardians and Ashen Keymasters as like a mechanic. And then it was just like every month a new thing happening with the Flameheart, like Flameheart's influence is spreading. A new gameplay thing is happening because of his evil forces. There are now Ashen Winds battles. There are now Burning Blade ghost fleets, and the Flameheart head is above them, yelling so loudly. And they just did this like for a while. And I feel like this update, everything about this event with Flameheart and with the Burning Blade, it feels right in line with one of those, but it was like after 10 times the build up and 10 times the hype up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like this is just, it's like, and then another Flameheart.
Flamefart, yeah.
I didn't mean to call him fart. Flamefart is what would happen if I ate spicy food.
I was gonna say, Flamefart is what like a radical Ninja Turtle would call them if they were fighting them.
Yeah, or like a late series Ninja Turtle action figure when they really run out of characters to sell you. They're like, all right, and this series we've got Flamefart and Donatello in a football helmet. Anyway, so it just felt like it has that feeling of like it's just another Flameheart thing happening, rather than it feeling like this is the payoff of the buildup. Because let's talk about that buildup.
Yeah.
They did that in-game event where the community had to choose sides and have this whole, like, who's going to win? Which community side is going to win? Is Flameheart going to come back? Is he not going to come back? And then the community decided in terms of which side, completed more objective, ticked up more number, go up, smiley face, and Flameheart comes back. And then it takes all this time for this to be the payoff, because we knew it was going to take a while. Like when the Golden Sands Outpost thing happened, it took like almost a year for Port Merrick to happen, because like the gap between when the community event happened versus when the payoff happened was considerable. And this was that. This was the payoff of that. So it was just like, all right, this is in delivery. It is just another Flameheart thing that has happened, and not like a finality or a climax or anything of that nature. But what preceded that was this anticipation of like a year-long build-up. And like, oh, Flameheart's going to be back. This is the big moment of Sea of Thieves. This is the big moment. And then it was this. And it's like, okay, Flameheart's an NPC that you deliver a good to in the usual take item from point A to point B type of way. Not great. I don't know what I wanted. I don't know if they could have delivered on the build up they gave it. I feel like maybe they would have been better off continuing the trickle instead of having like a year off gap or 2 year off gap and then dropping this. If they would have like not built up to this, and if it would have just been a trickle of, and then this season Flameheart did this, then this wouldn't feel disappointing, I think, because it would have been just another thing in the long line of things, but we would have expected that.
Part of me wonders if the problem is the lack of any driving narrative force in the game. It used to be when they would add a new feature, and this would then kind of continue with the adventure era of Sea of Thieves. There would be some sort of big event to introduce like that new feature, like Hungering Deep introduced Megalodons to the game, but it did it in a big, like, specialized way, and it was like part of the story of the game, as it is. And then you had the Skelly ships getting added to the game, and that was Cursed Sails. And that was like, oh, the Skellies are mobilizing. Oh, Wanda the Warsmith is attacking each region of the Sea of Thieves. And it just leads to Skelly ships in the game. But it's done in a way that kind of tricks your brain and pleases it, because it feels like the narrative of the game is unfolding before you. And they've really gotten away from that since Retiring Adventures, where it just feels like, and then this new feature is added, and we might have some lore journals about it. But it really just feels stagnant. Like nothing really matters anymore. And I think that level of disappointment, because so much of Flameheart's return was built up in that older form of narrative storytelling in the game. And now when he's finally back, we don't get that. It's just a world event, and he's just sitting in there. And it just feels like it's just this perpetual give and take, back and forth. It's never going to be resolved. And I think they could have done the Burning Blade rollout with not an adventure, but some sort of grander fanfare for just the rollout before it just becomes this standard part of the game's infrastructure. And maybe Flameheart is just there for the rollout, and then Flameheart goes off somewhere again. But I think I think it kind of nerfs Flameheart a little bit to just have him be a regular NPC you can always talk to in the game.
Yeah, no, okay. I hadn't thought of this. What you've just said, this idea of Flameheart shows up for the rollout of this feature. And then they would build like an event around it, was obviously is what they would have to do. Is like, okay, Burning Blade is coming to the game as a world event, but also I'm going to come up with the dumbest one because this is, a parody of Sea of Thieves. The Burning Blade is now a world event, but there's a time-limited story event that's called The Blade Burns. Okay. And, or whatever, that's the joke. But there would be an event, and it would be like, now that the Burning Blade event is here, go and engage in the event X number of times to unlock the sword, and for the duration of the event, Flameheart is in the for the Reaper's hideout, and he's hanging out with some cool lore that you get when you talk to him. You can read his dialogue and get this like, oh wow, I'm talking to Flameheart and he has this to say. That's cool. And maybe he sends you on a little side quest that is just explores some lore or whatever. Like when Wanda the Warsmith started the skeleton ship battles, there was just this little quest off to the side where you follow the footprints and you go talk to Salty the Parrot, and you collect the journals, and then you get the little reward at the end. And it just explained the backstory in a time limited way that was like, if you were there at that moment in time, you got to piece it together. And then Flameheart is around for that. He's just a harbinger of this event has come into the game, and then he goes away. He's in the shadows, and then he feels big and imposing still because you don't know what he's up to. You don't get to see him every day hanging out doing nothing. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm with you on that. The way that they have done these things in the past, and I'm not going to say like they used to do it good and now they do it bad. The reality is they've done it differently every time for 6 years. They've explored and experimented a lot of different ways to do these things. And it just seems to me that the way they've been doing it lately is to do like nothing. Is We're going to just make features, but we're not going to have that comprehensive or what's the word I'm looking for is whole, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but it's holistic. They're not doing a holistic like surrounding support around the feature that builds it up, that introduces it, that this time limited, like here's the event that goes with the feature, here's the time limited story that goes with the feature. And that's what they used to have. That's what they don't currently have. And we talked about this last month to a lesser degree of me feeling like they didn't do enough of a rollout with season 12 when they brought in new weapons and new tools. I was like, okay, you're going to drop new weapons, you're going to drop new tools, but what if you did a fun little build ride adventure that had you like get exposed to all these features? It's just the same thing every season now. They're not doing these things. All
they're adding is do this 500 times and get a commendation. I was like, well, that's not fun, really. That's just, again, being obsessed with number go up. And I think, like I said, the whole narrative arc of Sea of Thieves, which used to be so fun to follow, and especially because you mentioned plates spinning earlier, but that's really what it felt like. It felt like they had like 5 to 6 plates always spinning, and it's just like, oh, Dark Brethren over here, ooh, Gold Hoarder over here. I guess that's the same plate at this point, but you know what I mean? Like, just all these little threads, and I'm mixing my metaphors, but they're just letting the plates fall now. The threads are getting tangled. And it's just they're knotted, and they're not really doing any effort to unknot them, to keep the plates on the poles. So the plates are smashing, and they're just letting us walk all over this broken ceramic, and we're getting bloody feet.
Yeah. Well, what I'll say too is, like I said, they've never had one way of doing things. They've experimented with their way of doing things all along, and in particular, doing those sort of monthly, like, hey, go out and do this, go out and do that. They've done it so many different ways now. When it started out with Build Rat Adventures and the way those were structured, and then in the second year, after the summer, after the anniversary update, they went into this sort of monthly updates with Duke the Build Rat giving out mercenary voyages. and they were kind of an evolution of Build Dread Adventures, but they were centered around voyages. It's like, okay, we're adding a new feature, but also this month we have a voyage you can do, and that voyage is going to make you go get exposed to that feature, and we're going to have a time, like a limited time, do our voyage in each region and get the reward for the month thing. And then they kind of evolved from there into the adventures, and the adventures did away with the voyage aspect of it. It wasn't a voyage you had to put on your table in the mercenary voyage sense. It was more just like a tall tale light structure, and when I say adventures were a different thing from those other things, each adventure was kind of a different thing from the previous adventure. They experimented within the adventure era of what is an adventure and how they're going to do that. And I think that they found that adventures were not sustainable, so they stopped. And then for the first time in all their years of experimentation, they just didn't replace it with anything.
Right.
In previous times when they figured something wasn't working out, they pivoted to a new direction, and now it feels like for the past year or more than a year, they didn't pivot to a new direction. They just decided to stop with that element of the game, and that is what feels really... the story of the game is stagnated, but also just that feeling of regularly having something to do and engage in.
Yeah.
That's like, what's our reason to get in the game this month? It's not there.
Yeah, like even things like festivals and stuff, they just don't really do anymore. And I didn't really recognize this because there's a little bit of sleight of hand because the adventures ended right before the Monkey Island Tall Tales were added to the game. And of course that was a big investment of time and it's a big feature. So you're just like focused on that for a while. And I didn't realize that after the Monkey Island Tall Tales, they were just going to stop doing the stuff I like. As far as like narrative building, world building, having this like cause and effect in the game world. I like a lot of the new features they've added since then. I'm not saying like I've hated Sea of Thieves since the Monkey Island Tall Tales, because that's not true. But the level of investment, the level of intellectual investment I have in the game is definitely getting less and less because there is just less care and attention being paid to the stuff they used to do. Like you said, there's no consistent way they used to do it. I'm not saying they need to go back to this or that, but something would be nice.
Yeah. And what I'll say is what I miss most from Adventures, because I realize entirely that what they were doing was not like sustainable, right, and maybe not the right thing to be doing in terms of how much Adventures were a full-on story they were telling with unique assets, and like you were playing a narrative game, but it was only in the game for 2 weeks and then it was gone forever, and it required them to come up with one like every month, and that's just not sustainable. That was a great way to progress the story for a while. But the thing that I miss most about that, and we're going to disagree because I think you probably would say that the story is the main thing that you miss. And I miss that too. But for me, the main thing that I miss is just the variety of what's happening in the game, whether it's like really strongly progressing the narrative or not. Some of the things that Adventures did, those community events where it's like pick a side, go do a task, and you're contributing to your side, and then hang on pins and needles and see which side won. That was cool, and it doesn't necessarily have to require like a ton of unique assets to like put something like that together and then have like something unfold out of it. Two is when you're putting a new feature into the game, doing a monthly thing that is going to string a little narrative together to highlight that feature. Like when they brought in the Phantom Sea Forts, they also did an adventure that was like all the residents from Golden Sands got kidnapped and they're locked up in the Sea Forts. So go to the Sea Forts and rescue them and fight a little boss fight while you're there against a captain. there was not really much to that was like handmade for that event. They're really just using most of the assets that are already in there.
Right.
But it just like highlighted the new feature. It highlighted those forts as a place to go to and a thing and a reason to go check them out. That was like a moment in time to progress the narrative and introduce you to a new feature. And then another thing they did, even better, was just like mixing up the sandbox world. This is my number one thing I want Sea of Thieves to do. Regularly mixing up the sandbox world in time-limited ways, just to add variety to the game. Things like, for this whole month, some of the islands are shrouded, and you can go talk to Belle and find out why, but mainly the cool thing that month wasn't the little story event you did. The cool thing that month was going around doing the normal gameplay of Sea of Thieves, but the island you want to go to is covered in a green shroud, and then you see another ship emerge from the shroud, you didn't see them coming, and you've got the like cool opportunities for interactions because you're not used to that island being covered in fog. And then another month, all of the rowboats in the game are explosive gunpowder rowboats. And another month, there's a ritual going on in the Devil's Roar, but the volcanoes are inactive. And so even if you don't engage in that story, even if you don't go do that little quest, just playing in the Devil's Roar is different this month. It's just a tweak to the world. And that costs nothing to just take the tools that are already in the game and rearrange the toy box. And that's what I'm missing.
There's so little pageantry these days, I think. And that's just what we asking for is just a little bit of pageantry, a little bit of acknowledgement that, hey, it's Halloween. Maybe we get spooky with it. They don't really do that.
Why didn't they get spooky with it this year? Even a simple like this month, pick up a quest and it will get you to go to the Fort of the Damned more often than usual. Why not do that? Just do it, man.
And really quick, I'll just say because there's so little effort or thought being put into the overarching story right now, they added new lore journals in season 13, written by Diving Bell from Tales from the Sea of Thieves, that early expanded universe book that came out at game launch. And it's talking about like the war between the ancients and the sirens and how the merfolk got involved. And I think there's like hints for what's coming in the game from them. I think because I haven't actually read any of them because I haven't sought them out. They added new lore journals to Sea of Thieves, and nobody on crew has bothered to hunt them down because everything just feels so flat right now.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like So they're teasing features to come, and that's cool. They should do that. I'm not saying that what they've done shouldn't happen. The journals they've added should happen, and that's cool. But it feels like we don't care because they're not... They should be like a small little side thing going on in the story while you have like a bunch of other moving pieces to also pay attention to. And when they're the only thing going on in the story, it's just like, I don't care about the story anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it's a tease for... Like last season, the lore you could find throughout the season was teases that this small island is gonna turn into a camp. And then it did.
Right. And if you like are plugged in at all, like if you watch their preview video, you know the whole the whole year to come in Sea of Thieves. And so it's just like, yeah, I know. But you're not presenting it in a fun, novel way, like an in-universe way that makes you want to seek it out. You're just like, well, I know. It's fine.
You know what was fun? It was fun when Duke the Bildrat was in a different spot every month.
Yeah.
With a little tease of lore. And part of the fun of that is just like, okay, yeah, you're putting the little tease of lore in there, but also you've turned it into a Where's Waldo or a Where's Wally.
Right.
And so you might seek him out like on your own, like to go look for him, or you might just like run into him and be like, "Oh, it's Duke. This is where he is this month." Or maybe like us, you just kind of like, well, we don't have that much time to play this month, so if someone knows where to go, please just take us there, and so we can make sure that we've check it out. But that either way, that's still more exciting than the stuff they have been doing.
You know what was exciting, Jeff?
Tell me.
Sea of
Twitch
Thieves.
drops?
What? No,
Twitch
we're
drops?
we're not talking about Twitch drops. My God, we're talking about Sea of Thieves making the most natural cross-promotional partnership they've ever done, where they teamed up with the WNBA's New York Liberty for a week of pirate-themed activities in New York City. Did you hear about this, Jeff? Did you hear about this?
I heard about it. I'm going to need you to walk me / the audience through this one, because I was so tuned out that at the moment when this headline came across my eyeballs, I think I audibly just said like, ugh.
So, in our show notes, full disclosure, you wrote, Hyle, you need to explain this one. I was checked out. And underneath that, I wrote, fuck me. So, we do a little curse on occasion here on the conversation. So basically,
yeah, I'm gonna channel Buford T. Justice from Smokey and the Bandit, and I'm gonna ask you please not to swear in front of my son.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm also smuggling Coors east of the Rockies. You know, which
we are eastbound and down.
Yeah. So apparently, this is a little bit of synergy thought up by Xbox's Global Sports Partnerships division, which I was mortified to learn is a thing. It's a thing that justifies its own division within Xbox, and they've done this cross promotion with the New York Liberty team in the past with other games, and because they were attempting to reach the WNBA playoffs, and they had a decisive game on Thursday, September 19th, which, of course, as we all know here on the conversation, is Talk Like a Pirate Day. So Xbox's Global Sports Partnerships division was like, aha, that's our in. That's our hook. We're going to do a Sea of Thieves crossover with the WNBA's New York Liberty team. Thankfully, this never made its way into the game. There was no, like, basketball courts set up on the outpost or anything. But here's why this is relevant to talk about. Otherwise, I would just be ignoring this, Jeff. The reason this piqued my interest at all, the reason I had to run a news story about it on DK Vine, was for clickbait purposes, because it turns out the New York Liberty's mascot is named Ellie the Elephant. So, yeah that's it. Let me read you the little blurb from the press.
I'll just say, if this is your first time listening to the podcast,
yeah,
2 hours in, Ellie the Elephant is from Donkey Kong.
It's some of the Donkey Kong pudding we were alluding to. We're getting a little bit out right now, squeezing through the bag, but we got the little blurb from the press release. I'll just read this verbatim. The Liberty's mascot, Ellie the Elephant, will serve as Pirate Queen for the week, leading the Sea of Thieves pirate crew as they make landfall across New York City today, sharing their signature swashbuckling excitement with fans. Once the pirates land, from September 16th through the 18th, Ellie will send her crew out to the 5 boroughs to hide various pirate treasure, such as New York Liberty VIP tickets and 1, 3, and 6-month Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and PC Game Pass subscription token codes in the form of gold doubloons around the city. Yeah, thrilling stuff. So I was like, what, the Sea of Thieves pirate crew? So they got people from Rare involved with this, like the Prestons, or like what's going on? It's like, no, they hired models dressed as pirates to say we are from Sea of Thieves. We're pirates. We're gonna be hiding our Lucky Charms. That's the leprechauns, but you know what I mean. They're hiding them throughout the city, and I feel like they think I'm stupid, Jeff.
Well, I'll tell you what it reminds me of. Okay,
Yeah.
So, what did you say the name of the team within Microsoft is called?
Oh, it's I can't believe you don't know this already. The Global Sports Partnership Division.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna take Sea of Thieves and combine it with the WNBA. It just reminds me of my mom used to watch the Ellen DeGeneres show, and they did this really hacky game segment where they would take a celebrity who is their guest, who is the talk show guest, and they would do this spin the wheel thing. This, like, on the TV screen, it would just like randomize on the screen what the fill in the blanks are. And it was like an impression. You're doing an impersonation of a thing. It's like, you're going to do a spin, spin, spin. Christopher Walken, while he's getting spin, 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 electrocuted, or whatever. And then Jimmy Fallon would do that impersonation or whatever. It sucked. But that's this.
It's Mad Libs, essentially, yeah.
Yeah. It's like trying to open 2 cans of Mountain Dew at the same time. And then realizing that you don't have enough Kleenex to stuff these cans. I don't know where I'm going with that, but
yeah,
I guess if I was already a fan of specifically the New York Liberty team of the WNBA, I would at least have the reaction, what?
Right.
But since I'm not, I have the reaction of nothing.
I mean, I guess from a very superficial vantage point, as a fan of Sea of Thieves and Rare, it was cool to see the Barclays Center where they play the basketball, like decked out in Sea of Thieves iconography, like on the actual court. So that's cool. Like, a good exposure, I guess, but it's just one of those weird corporate things that I kind of roll my eyes at and grit my teeth at, and it's just like, who is this for? It's to justify Xbox having a global sports partnership division, and then that's it, basically. The only reason we're talking about this is because the mascot, Jeff, the mascot's name is Ellie the elephant. And I'm like, oh, I hope there's Rare could have fun with this. But of course, they can't have fun with this because this isn't meant for fun. This is meant for cross promotion.
This is why she couldn't be in the theme park, because she was double booked. But I was going to say that to these basketball players, to these athletes, they must have been so confused, because I really don't think that I love Sea of Thieves, but I don't think that Sea of Thieves is like a brand name on the, the way to, like, okay, we're going to decorate a professional basketball court with Sea of Thieves, and 95% of everyone involved in the audience and the team and the organization is going to be like, what's Sea of Thieves, right? But then I had that thought. Then my second thought was, but wait, that's what the New York Liberty is to sports teams. Nobody, that's not like a big, like, top tier brand in the world of sports. That's nothing. And then I realized it's kind of like putting ukulele in Brawl Out. It's a perfect marriage. All right. I had to get my mean dig in there, but
here's the thing, though. You say, like, the New York Liberty fans don't know what Sea of Thieves is. Sea of Thieves fans, for the most part, I think Amir knew. We were talking about this with Amir, and Amir knew right away who Ellie the elephant referred to in this context. And I was like, okay, but for by and large Sea of Thieves fans, we did not know who the New York Liberty was, and now we know. And now it's like, what's your favorite WNBA team? I'm going to be like, well, the New York Liberty, because Sea of Thieves. So I guess it does its job.
It does its job. For me, it's still the Indiana Fever. But when they finally get an expansion team to Detroit, I'll finally start caring about women's sports.
Oh, Jeff.
No, I actually really like watching softball and the Olympic Games. So there you go. I'm a sports watcher. But I said but like I had the next thing to say. And then I forgot. I didn't have it planned. What do you have next to say, Hyle? Is there more Sea of Thieves, or do we go right into a call?
We go right into a call, Jeff, and I know how you feel about calls. Just bear with me, because
I love calls.
We got this call several weeks back, and it was about Sea of Thieves season 13. I was just like, well, I need to squirrel that away because autumn is approaching, and like our woodland rodent friends, we need to make preparations for the future. We need to bury valuable treats that we can dig up for later, which is what this call is. This call is about Sea of Thieves Season 13. So we're going to play it right now, this tasty little nutty morsel that was in the soil for weeks now. We're going to dig it up.
We're going to... Ziploc baggie.
We're going to get sticky with it. And then we're going to share our final thoughts. I feel like this has been a more negative episode, but maybe we can... We can end on a positive note.
We can do that, because I don't feel negative. I just feel like I've been asked specifically to answer some thoughts, and those thoughts happen to be negative. But I'm not in a bad mood. I enjoyed this season, so yeah, we'll finish strong. Let's go to the call.
Let's play the call.
Hey guys, Natsu here. I wanted to talk about the Burning Blade ship event in Sea of Thieves Season 13. I like how this thing sort of monopolizes the server. Makes other crews need to deal with you if they want to see their precious world events again. That said, I did have a difficult time getting into fights most of the time. We kind of had to do everything in our power to get people to challenge us. We had to get our emissary up to 5, collect Reaper chests, start the Fort of the Damned, just every conceivable measure. Well, once we got into fights, it was pretty fun. It's easier to board this thing because there's 2 ladders on each side, but I did find that people are easier to predict once they get on board. They sort of have to keep bunny hopping around. They don't have time to like spawn camp you or eye of reach you from downstairs or anything. And it's also nice to have skeletons on the cannons for you because you finally get to use the aimbots they have to bombard people from max distance. That said, I do wish you could give them more commands, like with the pirate chat feature. It'd be cool if you can get them to like raise the sails or bail water. I'm not sure if that'd be overpowered, but I feel like the only reason it's not in the game is because they don't have animations for skeletons doing that kind of thing. And as far as the flame cannon goes, I thought it would be a gimmick at first, but it's actually quite strong, especially if you're sort of losing the fight, you're anchored. A lot of times other ships will want to circle strafe you, and you can kind of, turn it around by hitting them whenever they're at the bow of the ship. But yeah, overall it's a pretty nice addition to the sandbox, and I'd like to see more stuff like it in the future. All right, see you.
Well, thank you for the call. And I said we wanted to end on more positive footing. I think this call helps get us there. They had some positive things to say about Season 13 and the Burning Blade.
Yeah, good observations about the specifics of what it's like aboard the ship and using the ship. I hadn't thought about that detail when it comes to, because the ship is so big and spread out. They can't spawn camp you as easily and see where you're going to spawn, so they have to run around more. And then, so of course they're bunny hopping while they do that. But that's interesting. It gives you more time to like get your footing when you respawn and like run out, go do what you're going to do. Because it on a smaller confined ship, it does feel sometimes like I just respawned and then I got killed.
Right, which of course,
so
nerfing the blunderbuss definitely helps with that a little bit. But yes.
For sure. Yeah, so there was that. What else?
I like the idea of commanding skellies on the ship. It's a
Yes.
shame you can't do more with that. Like to their point, yeah, they don't have the animations, and also they didn't want to make these skellies OP. Like, you can't have them do everything for you. It's a pretty big thrill just to have them on the cannons. But I don't know, a little bit of dictatorial control would be nice.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see if there'd be a good way to balance that. Because one of the things in terms of what would make that OP, it's not just that you could make the Burning Blade crew OP if the players could direct the skellies. It might cause too wide of a gap between a Burning Blade that is crewed by a galleon player set,
right,
versus a Burning Blade that is crewed by a solo player or a sloop. Because being able to command the skeletons is sort of a luxury that you have when you're one of 4 players on the crew.
Yeah.
But if you're just a sloop, they give you more skeletons to compensate, but you don't have as much time to spin the plates. That's always been the thing about being a solo crew, and why they always say soloing on a sloop is hard mode of Sea of Thieves. It's a hard mode because you have all these plates to spin and you're by yourself. And then giving a crew member the ability to like delegate tasks, it might make it even harder for sloops relative to how easy it is for galleons. But it would be interesting.
It would be. I mean, it's hard spinning plates when you're a solo player, but it's, as we can see, as last year's Sea of Thieves, it's hard for Rare to spin the plates too, or threading fabric.
And if you're solo, sometimes it's hard to get a ride.
This has been a File 2 production.
¡Qué rico!